Hi everybody, and welcome to another movie evolving around the subject of using a 3D printer for your lure making. In this movie I'll show you how you use Fusion 360 to create a 3D drawing that can be printed into a soft bait master like this one. If you're completely new to the subject about 3D printing and lure making, you could consider watching my introduction movie to 3D printing. There's a link for that one up here. If you're completely new to drawing in 3D and using Fusion 360, I encourage you to find some good guides on the net on the basic use of the program. I'll be sure to leave a link down here below for a guy called Lars Christensen, which is making some very easy to follow guides on using the program. Once you have the basics in place, you can just watch this movie, and I'll make sure that you have the techniques needed for making your own 3D printing designs that can be printed into masters for your own lure making. Although this movie is about making a master for a shad, actually it's this one, you can use the techniques in here for making other lures as well. That be crankbait, jerkbaits, or whatever. You can use it both for making masters and also maybe for printing lures directly if you want to do that. Okay, well, the first thing we have to do is go to the computer and get Fusion 360 started up. I've now opened up Fusion 360 and opened up a new design. The first thing we want to create is the basic shape of the shad. And to do that, we use the tool that creates a form. So I'll just use that, and I'll take the type of form to create will be a box. And first of all, we need to select a plane to draw onto. So I'll just go to the top view here and select that plane. And then from the center, I'll draw out a rectangle that is in the size of the lure I want to create. Okay, like that. And the reason why it should be the size of the lure that you want to create is that I know that you can scale up and down, but if you make the details on the lure and scale too much down, they might end up too thin for you to actually cast them. So it's a good idea to actually make them in the size you want, and then you can always afterwards determine if it's possible to scale up and down, or maybe changing the design a bit so you can scale it down to the right size. And for this lure, which is meant for pike fishing, I actually want the lure that is around 150 millimeters long, but as I need to reduce part of it along the way, I'll start out with a shape here that is 180 millimeters long, and the width should be something like 20 millimeters, I think, for starters anyway. Okay, and once I've selected those two, it will actually draw my shape here, and it will allow me to set the height, and I'll just set that to 20 millimeters as well, like that. And then I'll go to the property box up here. And as you can see, it has the measurements I just entered, and it also has something about faces. And with faces, it's talking about the sections of the lure. The sections you can manipulate when you are shaping the lure. And one thing you can see is that the more sections you have, the more details you can add. The less sections you have, it will make it easier to obtain a nice smooth shapes. So you need to figure out where in between you want to be. And with a lure like this, I will start out with, I think, 11 length faces. In the width, I only need 2, as I just need the 2 sides, and I don't need that many details in that direction. And the same goes for the height. So 2 on each of those. Then there comes a very important part, is to add some symmetry. And well, its only choice is mirror, and I need the lure to be mirrored so the both sides is the same, and that is what's called width symmetry. And as you can see here, it has now added a green line down the center of the shape here, and that means that what happens on one side will also happen on the other. Okay, and I need it to be a new body. So now I'm done. And what I have here is the starting point for my
my lure, the thing I can shape. So this squared cigar is ending up as our shad. Okay, and now we can start shaping the form here. And the way you do that is that you select something. You can select a single face or a section. You can select two by holding shift down while clicking the other one. You can select the lines. You can select the crossing of the lines here, or you can select entire areas like this. And once you've selected something like this one, you can right click and choose edit form. And this will give you this, I don't know what to call it, an action tool or something that you can use to manipulate the section you've chosen. And there's a lot of different options. And actually, there's probably options that I haven't even figured out yet. But if you just take some of the simple ones, like the arrow, you can use that to pull the section up and down. And as always on computers, you can go back one or one step back by using Control C. So you can always just try and go back. Well, and you can also move it in the length direction, of course. You can use this one to kind of grab it and move the hole around without reshaping it. There's also this one which will enlarge it, or you can, I'll just go back here, you can enlarge it in one direction only, like that. And there's this one which is also kind of enlarging it. Some of them seems to work a bit alike. And there's this handle which is twisting it. And as you can see, if I turn it around, you can do the same in the other direction. And this is actually a good way of showing how the symmetry works, because if I grab this one and pull it out, you can see it happens in both directions. So I only need to work on one side, and it doesn't really matter on which side I work. I can switch between sides and whatever I like along the way. Control C to go back. Okay, so now we know how to manipulate the shape here into what will be our shad. Okay, I'll just move this box out here. And one thing you also should remember along the way is to save your progress. When you've reached the point where you are satisfied with what you have, always save. And this is actually a good point to make the first save, because you can always get back to the save. Even though you save something afterwards, you can go back. So this is kind of like versions, and it's nice to have a starting point version to go from. Okay, so I'll just press Control S to save here, and I'll call this one Breamlike. As well, I thought it should be something like a bream, but let's see how it turns out. At least it has a name now. And now you can see it ends up over here in my project folder. As I mentioned earlier, that even though I wanted the bait to be 150 millimeters long, I made it 180. And that is because I want to reduce some sections of the form here to enable me to make more significant changes in those areas. And one of those would be here in the third section from the head, where I want the gill plates to be. So to do that, I'll just select the tip of the head of the bait here and drag those closer to the other one down here, and not trying to move it too much up and down, but a little bit doesn't matter. And then also I would just, as you can see, the fourth section was kind of reduced as well, and I don't want that, so I'll just pull that a bit out again. Then also at the nose of the fish here, I would like to reduce that just a little bit. Okay, and also down at the end where we have the paddle, I will reduce those two sections down there to be able to make more significant changes there. So just first of all, this one, like that, and then move those up a bit as well. Okay, so now that's done, and now we can start shaping the lure. And I'll just try to go for a more classic shape for a shad, and then afterwards I will try to make special changes. So first of all, let's just go for the classic look. And well, it is fairly easy to go so. So first of all, I'll select a few sections here on the top to make to raise for a back of the fish, and I grabbed the wrong section there. Like that. I need the arrow like that, just that. And also I'll take the two in the middle and use them, make them go even further up. And here you can see already when you have a close, when the lines are close, you'll have a shorter distance to bend over, so it'll be a little sharp bend there, but we'll change that along the way as well. Also here at the bottom, I'll do the same, because I need a belly. Move that down a bit. Okay, and then I would like to make a tail, so I'll just grab this and this. No, need to zoom in, not that one. This and this, move those up a bit, and I'll just grab all those up here and move those down a bit like that. And already you can see it, well, it doesn't really take much to get something of a paddle here. Okay, so, and then to make the paddle complete, I'll just grab this section here, pull that downwards a bit, grab this one to pull it out to get the right angle. Then maybe grab this one, move it a little bit closer here. Like that. Okay. Maybe a bit too thin. I can grab this one, make it a little bit more fat, like that. Okay. And yeah, well, I'll just start moving around a bit, trying to get it to look like the shape that I want. So this is just a part I think we should fast forward a bit over, and then I'll get back when I get to something more interesting again. So let's just see here. And now I would like to try to make the gill plate here. And first of all, I will have the lines around these sections to more or less follow the track that are the way I want the gill plate to be shaped. So I'll just grab this one, pull it a little bit back. Also this one should be pulled back. This one maybe a bit upwards, like that. Then we need the gill plate to go out a bit. So I'll just pull that down while pushing this in a bit. This one I will try to push in while pushing this one a bit out. Maybe moving a bit downwards to create that. Well, it is really just like bit like moving around with the clay. As you can see, well, doesn't look all bad. Doesn't look all bad. I think. I'll just move this for. Okay. So you can see now you have a nice line that resembles the gill plate here at this section. Okay, apart from the around the gill plate, when you look from the top and down, you'll see that well, we still have more or less the square shape up here. So now let's work a bit on that. And before I do so, I'll just say that generally when I work, I try to do a little bit of work in all areas, because if you try to get too finished at one point, then when you work at another point, you'll end up ruining the first point. So it's a good idea to just kind of work a bit on each place until you slowly move towards the final goal on all areas at the same time. I don't know if that made sense, but anyway. Okay, I like to make the tail, and to do that, I'll just grab these 4 sections here on the side, and I'll look from above and I'll push those in. And as you can see, it very quickly becomes quite like a tail from here. I'll just have to evaluate on the thickness of that. Okay, and also up here on the nose, it looks a bit strange, so I'll just grab that one, and no, I'll just grab this one and this one. No, this one. Move in here and push that into the bait to create a nice round nose here. And sometimes it just is a bit hard to navigate here. Okay, and you can see that it's already looking a lot more like a fish shape. I think tail is still a bit thick. I think I'll just grab that. Okay, and then one thing, because when you look at it this way, it's actually still kind of a square, both in the body shape and also the paddle. So so let's just work a bit on that. Down here, I'll just grab this line, pull it out a bit, maybe up a bit. No, probably need the size of it, and I'll choose this one as well. Pull that down to create the drop-like shape. Take the top here of the paddle, move that in. Okay, looking nice like a drop now, I think. I'll just look from the, and at this point I must admit I find it very difficult to evaluate on the size of it. So often I end up, after the first print, of either resizing the tail in order for it to be the size that I actually want, because it's very hard to see here in the computer if you get the right size compared to the body size. So I'll just well, I think this looks quite nice. Also, as we said, there's the body is still kind of square as well, so I'll just do a bit about that. And to do that, I'll just grab the whole side, the whole this whole line here, down to the paddle, like that. I'll just look from below, and then I'll push this in a bit to create a more narrow bottom than top, which is what I prefer actually. So you can see now it's a bit more, and I'll do the same at the top to round the back a bit. Maybe push it down a bit like that. Yeah, and actually here at the head it looks quite nice. It has somewhat of a W shape here. The belly, of course, should be more like round. So I'll grab this section and push it up a bit. Well, I think this is a point where I'll just be working off without speaking, because this is, you have a lot of small adjustments to get the actual shape, and I think you more or less generally get the idea of how this is done. So I'll just do this without speaking, and then we'll fast forward over that part until we get to something exciting again. I think for now the basic shape of this is more or less finished. I might change it later on, but for now I think this is very nice. Okay, so I'll just do a save once and give it a name so I can get back to that point, and then I'll press the finish form button. And as you can see now, I can no longer handle the shape here, but I can always get back. In Fusion 360, down here you have a timeline or sort of thing, so you can always go back. And the way to go back to editing this form is to go down to the timeline, where we only have one step so far, is actually making this whole body, so that's a big step. But if you right click that one and choose edit, you'll get back into the edit form mode, and you can continue shaping the form here, and then press finish form once again. And now it's time to add some details to our lure. And first of all, I like to have a fin here at the back. I would say dorsal fin, but I'm not sure it's called that on a bream. But let's see anyway. And the first thing you need to do is to draw the shape of the fin. And you do that by making a sketch, and I use a spline here. And as always, you should choose a plane to do that on, to draw on. So I'll just go to the front view here and select that one. And then I'll start shaping my fin here. So and this is a tool that makes kind of round edges here. So when I need it to turn, I should make them fairly close. And yeah, and like that. That doesn't look half bad, I think. Maybe a bit too high. So I'll just edit it. But now, for now, it's nice. So I have more or less the shape I want. So I just press stop sketch. So now, as you can see, if I turn the lure, I actually have something that will end up as a fin going in through the center of the lure here. And part of it will be inside the body here, so that we won't be able to see once finished. So now that I've finished, I can finish the sketch. I can edit it by selecting sections here. I can select this, or I could select, it's harder to select something within the body. So to do that, I'll just turn off the body up here, and I can how does this look? Well, let's start with that. Okay, so now we have the sketch of the shape that we want, and I'll just select it if it wasn't already selected, and press E for extrude. and it then will ask me how thick it should be, how much I will extrude it, and I like to extrude it 2 millimeters. And I'll go to the property box here, and I'll say, well, I want it to be 2 millimeters on both sides, I think. No, it was symmetric I wanted, like that. This will create a fin that is 4 millimeters thick, and I think that is more or less optimal when you're wanting to casting it in soft plastic. So I'll do that, and a symmetric 2 millimeters, and it's automatically selecting cut. So actually I won't get the shape, I'll just get a hole in the back. So I'll just choose join instead, and as you can see now, it just it has made a fin up there on the top. Okay, and then I'll just press OK. So now we have a nice fin there. Looks a little bit square, but we'll get back to that. Now it's time for a fin down here at the bottom. So I'll just do the same once again, and well, I won't speak too much about that this time. So okay, and now I'll create the fin here on the side, and I'll just as before, I'll start by creating the sketch of it. So I'll just choose a spline sketch here, and I'll start making that. Well, something like that, I think. Okay, stop sketch. And then once again, I want to extrude it, but this time I don't want to extrude it inside the body here. So there's a small difference. First of all, I select the sketch here. Then I turn back on the body again. Then I press E for extrude. And instead of profile plane, I select from object and select the side as the object I want to extrude from. And then down here in the distance, I set it to 2 millimeters, and it should be a join, and I say OK. So if I look now, as you can see, I have my fin sitting there on the side of the body. Okay, and this time I'll have to do it from both sides. So once again, I'll just flip it, flip the lure around, or the shad around, and I'll just turn off the body here, and I'll find the sketch again because it's deselected. And I'll select that one, switch on the body, press E for extrude, press change to from object, select the side of the shad here, and choose 2 millimeters. And as we're on the other side, actually it's minus 2 millimeters, and it's a join, and OK. So now you can see I have two fins there on the side. I have my back and my belly fin. Now what's the only thing that's left is an eye. So I'll just draw that. So now we are ready to make a socket for the eye. I will use that even though I often just paint the eyes on my lures. It's nice with a bit of a socket to make sure that you position the eyes the same place every time. So even though you use 3D eyes or you just paint them, it's nice to have a socket to use as a guide. And to make this, I'll start out by making a sketch just like the other time. So I'll start with a circle, and I'll just position the center of the eye where I want it here. I think this would be nice, and I think 8 millimeters for the eye is nice. Yep. Okay, and then I will make a line, because I like those angry eyes, you know. So I'll just draw a line into the eye here to give me that angry look, like this, I think. And then I'll stop sketch. Okay, you can see now we have the eye here, and I'll just turn off the body, and as you can see now, I can select actually the part that is the angry eye and not the whole circle. So I'll just select that, switch on the body again. Once again, I'll choose extrude, and I'll go from object, and the object should be the side once again. But this time I would like to go -1 millimeter, and that will be a cut. And if I zoom in here, you can see that it will actually make an indent of the shape of my angry eye here, which is exactly what I want. Okay, and just as before, I need to do that on both sides. So I'll flip the body, turn it off, select my sketch here, like that. Turn on the body again, switch, select extrude, E for extrude, from object, and distance. Oh no, this would be the object. Distance should be now 1 millimeter, because it was minus before, and it should be a cut, and yes. Okay, so you can see now I have nice angry eyes on my shad here. Well, as I mentioned earlier, well, the fins and so on doesn't look that nice, so I'll just try to make them a little more nice, and I do that by using a tool called fillet. And fillet makes round edges, so I'll just select the edge here I want to make a fillet on, and press F, and it will ask me what the radius of the circle I want to use, and I'm just using 1. And as you can see, now it has nice round edges on that one. So I'll just continue that with the rest of them. Okay, and here we actually got an error, and it couldn't be done, it says, and I actually know why. It's because that the turning in here is so little, so it cannot make a 1 millimeter fillet on that one. So maybe I'll just try to see how much should I reduce it before it's possible. So I'll just say 0.8. Well, 0.8 is fine. And here you can actually see that this is the point where you get the problem when you're making a fillet like this. So 0.8, and that is acceptable for this purpose. I'll try the same here. Fillet 1 millimeter. It works. Nice. Up here, the eye is already only 1 millimeter deep, so the fillet could only be less, but I'll just take 0.5 millimeter. That's fine with me. And the same with this one up here. F 0.5. Okay, well, I think it's more or less done now. At least I'm so far that I actually want to see a print of it before I go any further, because as I said before, the tail, well, I'm not really sure if it has the right size. Also, one thing that I have tried before is that the tail is actually too thin, and it's a little hard estimating how wide it actually is, if it's wide enough to actually work. So I'll just make a print of it now, and then I'll consider if I need to go back and either resize it in some way. Okay, so once again, save, and then we're ready for printing. Before I try to print the shad, there's one thing I just want to do. As printing a round object would require quite a lot of support in the print, which again would require a lot of post-processing, I will start by just cutting the shad down in half and placing it on the flat side. This will eliminate any kind of post-processing, and I just need to glue the two parts together and I have a complete lure. So I'll just do that. And the way to do it is to select the split body tool here. And this only takes two choices. I need to select the body I want to split, and then I need to select the splitting tool, which in this term is the plane, which is running down the center of the lure. So I'll just select that one and click OK. And then I just need to turn back the body on again. As you can see now, I have a line running down the center of the body here. And if I select one of the bodies, because now I have two, like that, I can just right click it and select move, and I can just push it out here. Okay, so now I have two half bodies, and I'll just make an STL of those one at a time. So make like that, select what I want, this side please, hi, yes, don't use print utility, select OK, save STL, and I'll call it breamlike, and this is the right, and then I'll do the same with the other one.
I ended up printing out both sides of the shad here, and have now glued them together just with some 5-minute epoxy. And I must admit there's a few things I like to change about the bait so far. Actually, first of all, as I said before, I wanted it to be 15 centimeter, and apparently I've reduced it a bit too much while working, so now it's only 13 centimeters, which isn't enough. So I'll try to enlarge it a bit, but I don't just scale it up, because the fins up here actually have a very nice size as they are now. And if I add another 20%, it will be 1 millimeter more thickness to the fins there. So I think that I'll just reduce those a bit while enlarging the rest of it. Also, the tail in general is I think too thin. When fishing pikes, you have to consider the teeth of those. So I will make that at least maybe more or less double the size on that one. Of course, the first 20% will come from enlarging the lure. Apart from that, I'm quite satisfied, and I think the overall layout of the lure is very nice. Maybe the fins here on the side are a little bit too high. They're 2 millimeter high now, and they seem to stick out a bit, so I might even reduce those. Well, I'll just get back to the computer and make those changes, and you can just join me.
We're now back in Fusion, and I've opened up the drawing from yesterday, and I opened up the one where I didn't split the lure, so I can be working on the whole body again. So now I have to make the changes that I would like to do. And as I said before, down here in the bottom you have the row of actions you actually made on the lure to come to this state. And I'd like to start with the state that is the first of them, as it will then show me where I get errors if some should occur in the processes that comes afterwards. Okay, so I start out by right-clicking the form here and choose Edit, and then I can have a look at my lure here. I don't actually want to increase the length here. I will just prepare the model for being scaled in the Cura instead. So I'll just make my changes according to the knowledge that the bait will be scaled later on. Okay. And one thing that I wanted a thicker tail. So I'll just grab, let's see, I think I will take these, right click, edit form, pull them out a little bit to make the tail more round. I think I will choose these and then just pull them out 0.5 millimeter, I think. Check this one, 0.5, like that. That will be my next attempt. Other parts that I needed to, well, none of the other changes I want to make is on this stage, so I just press the finish form and we're just waiting for it to compute like that, and then I will check out the different things, and well, starting with the extrude of the back fin here, the fin on the back, I'll just edit that feature, and I said that should be 2 millimeters. I'll change that to 1.5. Okay, and still no errors. It's nice. This one down here, the same thing. I'll just edit that one. Not 41, 1.5, like that. Okay, and that was the eye. The eye was actually okay. This one, the extrusion of that one, and as that was done on both sides, I need to do that twice. 1.5, I think, will be nice. And turning it around. Oh, I don't actually need that because I just need to edit this one. Minus 1.5. Okay, and we got through all the changes without having any errors. If I did make some changes that would make some of the actions after that point not being able to be done, I will get an error. But this time it actually looks like that everything is quite fine. There's one thing though, I'll just check. I would like it seems that the tail here is kind of very straight on this part, and I like to just give it a more wider, higher profile here at the first section. So I'll actually just go back to the edit, and I'll just see what happens here if I pull up a bit like that and turn it a little bit like that. Maybe I should do the same here, pull it down just a little bit and turn it a little bit. giving it a bit more classic shad shape, I think. But well, I think that looks good. Okay, so we'll just finish from here, hoping that we'll get no errors. And well, as you see, I got several errors here. There's one here, which is what? Edit feature. Okay, we had that one before. Now that I've moved the point where it cuts into, we actually have. So what I'll do here is I'll find that. So you can see now we have some errors down here, and I'll just this one I'll just choose edit to be able to see what place it is. Okay, this is the fillet of the fin here, so I'll have to change that. So I'll just escape out of that and see if I can find the fin. Okay, I'll just find the fin up here as a sketch like that, and maybe select those two. It's hard working here with the body in over, so I'll just remove that. So I should be able to just move the fin out a little bit, switch on the body again. Still not. Okay, and as you can see now, just by fixing the fin, I actually got rid of two of the red ones down here. So that seems nice. Now the fin has a little change down here. And what is this one? So I'll just see what fillet is this one. Edit feature. Well, it's the feature for this. And for some reason, one side works, the other side don't. I can't just I don't understand that. 0.7 was okay. Well, it doesn't really matter too much to me. So now I have made the changes I want, and I'll just split it up again and make some print files, and then I can print a new version in the right size. Okay.
Well, I've now printed out the master with the modifications we made, and I printed it out in 16 centimeters length, which I think is quite a nice size for this bait. Well, I'm very satisfied with the fin's thickness now, and also the tail I think will be working fine on this bait with the new thickness. So the next steps for this one would be to maybe sand down the body a bit, and then apply spackle and sanding a few times to get a nice smooth surface. Then of course make a silicone mold from it and start casting. But that won't be in this movie, as I think it's kind of business as usual. So if you're interested in that part, I advise you to follow the link up here to my splash shad movie, which is more or less the same, just with a master made in hardwood. Well, at some point I might end up doing a video log of the rest of the process with this bait, but if I do so and you subscribe to my channel, you'll be notified when it arrives. Also, if you think that it would be very cool to have one of these baits on your own, and you have access to a 3D printer, in the text down below you'll find a link to a place where you can download the STL files for this bait. so you can just download the files and have a print for yourself and make a mold and master and so on. And of course, as always, I would love to see the outcome of your projects, and even more with this one, as it is kind of my bait you're making. As I said before, I'm quite new to both 3D printing and 3D drawing. And there might be a lot of you out there with a lot of more experience than I have. So if so, and you have good advice or tips and tricks, please add them in comments below, or go to my Facebook page and send me a message there. I will be happy for any advice and help I can get. And in the end, it will benefit all the rest of the viewers of my channel, because I will of course use it when making baits in the future. Well, I think this is all for now, and there's only one thing left to say. I hope you see me soon.